Cruise news time. Well, I've been on 5 cruises since the cruise restart, and one of the questions many of us have is, what rules will be followed and what rules will be ignored? Well, interestingly, I've got a list of cruise rules that the cruise lines seem to be enforcing, and I've got a couple that not so much. So if you're interested to see what you probably could and could not get away with on a cruise ship, this is the show for you. Cruise news. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news updates. Well, today, the cruise news story is built on my investigative reporting going on to cruise ships post the restart to see what exactly is going on. And I've been making notes along the way of the cruise protocols that are being strictly enforced and the ones maybe not so much. It's a precarious situation because now not only do crew members have to serve you in the normal way that they are employed to do, but they also have to take on the role of enforcer, which would stink, I think, if that was your job. But look, here's the list. First of all, hand washing at the buffet. This is one of the most consistently applied, enforced rules that I've seen since we've gone back. Almost every venue that I've gone into has a hand sanitizer. It's beyond the buffet, a hand sanitizer. Like even going to shows, there's usually a crew member saying, look, could you please sanitize your hands before you go watch the show? And then, of course, in all the buffets that I've been to, hand washing stations, and part of the ritual right now is a crew member telling you to wash your hands. Now, interestingly enough, hand hygiene still a little iffy on cruise ships. I've been in several public restrooms where you notice that people don't wash their hands. I guess some things never change, but at least for places where they have a crew member stationed, it does seem like hand washing is being enforced by the cruise line. Number 2, masking. Masking was one of those things where people thought the masses would rise up and rebel against masking, that there would be these crazy videos of people getting kicked off of cruise ships because of refusal to wear masks. That's not been the case. Now, it has been on the crew members to enforce this in many areas, and they've got crew members strategically positioned on many cruise ships. Say, for example, there's a no mask policy on most cruise ships when you're on the outside decks. And so on the Lido area, they'll usually have a crew member stationed by that door just to remind people gently to put their mask back on when they come inside. And then in places where masking is required, you will see crew members gently ask people to make sure that they are wearing their mask. And for the most part, I haven't seen a lot of pushback to that. So masking, a big protocol in cruise ships right now, and one definitely that cruise lines are enforcing. Another thing that cruise lines are enforcing, the cruise lines that have it, the vaccinated only areas. This is one of those things that is strictly regulated. I've seen several examples of this. When I was on the MSC Meraviglia, for example, there was a bar area at the aft of the pool that was for vaccinated guests only. And before somebody was even served a drink there, they were checking to make sure you had on the magic vaccinated wristband. And if you didn't, they asked you to move on. We've seen that. Just came off of the Mariner of the Seas. The casino was for vaccinated guests only. There were crew members stationed at both entrances of the casino, checking the wristband and making sure that people were only vaccinated to get in there. There was a lot of attention paid to that. That was another area where you could remove your mask on the Mariner of the Seas, and then they also, those same crew members would remind people they would give out a mask, or they would remind people to put their mask back on as they left that vaccinated only area. So the cruise lines that have designated vaccinated only areas, very strict about those areas and heavily enforced. Tied closely to vaccination is the excursion policy of many cruise lines. Some cruise lines only allowing vaccinated only guests to go out and explore the port. A lot of that's based on the rules of the port that they're visiting. And for unvaccinated folks, a lot of times there's a requirement that you can only take ship excursions, and that one is also heavily enforced. The cruise lines doing their best to keep the bubble and keep a good idea on whether or not vaccinated passengers are going off or unvaccinated passengers and how they maintain that. That one is strictly enforced. And then the last one that's very strictly enforced that surprises me is seating. And so a great example on the Royal Promenade, they've got the Royal Cafe there. I don't think that's the right name, the Promenade Cafe, and they have seating in there. Some seating is off limits for social distancing, and you cannot sit there. They have somebody that is very much policing that area. You can only sit at the tables that are designated for seating, and you can't move the cards around. You can't do anything like that. Same thing at the Windjammer, the buffet for Royal. You can only sit in the spots that are available, and that's it. They will tell you can't sit there. They police that heavily. Been in some theaters that are the same way, where they have seats that are marked off that you cannot sit in, and they keep this very tight. Now, I do have a protocol that I've seen somewhat enforced, but not always enforced. And then I have another protocol that I've never seen the cruise line enforce. I'm going to get there. Before I do, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Thank you in advance. Okay, a protocol that I've seen somewhat applied, but not in all circumstances, is social distancing. So like at the embarkation port, sometimes when you see a big queue line, there will be an employee there trying to space people out for social distancing, physical distancing. There's been other circumstances where I've been in a queue line where physical distancing's been completely ignored. The same thing with capacity in venues. There's supposed to be a physical distancing capacity limit on certain venues, but I've seen these venues fill up with very little effort to decrease that capacity or maintain some sort of physical distancing. That one's about 50-50. You see some examples of enforcement of physical distancing and some examples where it's completely ignored. Now let me talk about the one protocol that's on every cruise ship that I've been on since the restart that I've never seen an employee enforce. It's elevator capacity, oddly enough. We had this circumstance on Mariner of the Seas a few times. Big signs on the outside of Mariner of the Seas elevators, 4 people only. Only 4 people. Only 4 people. You open the door, only 4 people. There were multiple times on Mariner of the Seas I was part of 4 people that were on an elevator where 4 more people would try to get on, or where 2 more people would try to get on. And if you didn't say something, you would just end up with an elevator packed full of people. Now, you can debate whether or not it matters to have a lot of people in the elevator, but I'm one who advocates following the rules. I believe that's part of how we get along in society, is we follow the rules unless we are willing to buck the rules and accept the consequences. And so you got to pick your battles. And right there in the elevator, if they say 4 people, then I think they should only have 4 people. A lot of people ignored that rule. I've been on other cruise ships where people have ignored the elevator rule, and not once have I seen any employee enforcing that rule. So maybe the elevator rules aren't that important. Maybe the fact that there's not any enforcement there, or maybe that they want you to self-enforce, which is interesting in its own right. But yes, the elevator. I've not seen anybody enforcing the elevator rules. But look, that's just been my experience over the 5 cruises I've taken since the cruise restart. The protocols continue to evolve. Let me kick the question over to you. Have you done some cruising in 2021? Which protocols do you see heavily enforced? And which protocols do you see a lax enforcement put on? Leave a comment below. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. Please show your support for the show by hitting the like button, or the next cruise you're going to go on, you're going to realize that your passport is packed in your check bag that you've already given to the porter. That is a cruise nightmare, a huge mistake. Please hit the like button so that doesn't happen to you. This is Tony with Lido, Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.